What is up, wrestling fans? Welcome to episode number 568 of the Smark Out Moment Smack Talk Podcast Hot Tags of the Week. We're going to break down the news and the TV stuff and the rumors and the speculation and recaps and everything else that we feel like doing from the past few days, as per usual. I'm your host, as always, Tony Mango. Joining me, as always, are Callum Wiggins.
Hello there.
And Robert DeFelice.
Hello, everyone.
As per usual, again, on top of that, that's going to be the phrases for the day, I guess. We want to know what you have to say about all these topics, so drop your thoughts in the comments below on YouTube. If you're listening elsewhere, then leave a comment on whatever it is you're listening to, or send a tweet at Smark Out Moment or something along those lines. But if you are on YouTube, then you should click some of those other buttons that are out there. You should hit that like button. That'll help us know that you enjoy this. You should subscribe to the channel if you haven't done that already. You should ring that notification bell as well to know when we go live for things like tomorrow's Halloween Havoc pay-per-view post show. You can also have that little thanks button on there if you want to help us out on the monetary side of things and toss a little spare change our way. You can click the join button, which gets you access to the same things as the Patreon, patreon.com/smarkoutmoment, where you got the Darkcast, you pick a poison tier, and even just $1 a month will help out in a long way. And you've got Redbubble and TeePublic if you want to pick up some merchandise and help us out that way. But that is this marketplace stuff, and that is most of the plugs out of the way already. Let's start getting into some of these things here. Now, the hot tags are a breakdown of multiple different types of things, and we will get into the TV stuff and kind of bounce back around here and there between AEW and WWE and such. But one of the things that we typically like to do here is to start off with, I don't know why this became a running thing to start off with this, but it is trademarks. Woo! We've got 2 trademarks that happened from WWE this past week, and that leads into some other different discussion points, but one of them being NXT Deadline, which has been confirmed at this point to be a pay-per-view for December, and much to my dismay, it's December 10th. Which is the exact same day as ROH Final Battle, which got announced over this past week. So,
what a fucking shock that they put a show on against Ring of Honor. God.
It's
like this company doesn't want other promotions to succeed or get views or anything like that.
It's annoying as all hell, because obviously I got to do coverage for both. So I'm in that position where I'm hoping that at least ROH ends before our NXT starts, because if not, it's going to be watching 2 pay-per-views at the same time and doing upwards of 7 articles at the same time while watching 2. I'm not a fan of that. That's where being a fan and not having this as your job is definitely a benefit, especially when it comes to something like, I don't really know what I'm going to be interested in on either of these cards. Either one of them could be great. Either one of them could be trash. ROH is not something I follow all that much to begin with, and NXT, of course, is, it's got its hit and miss type stuff. But what do you guys think about the idea of NXT Deadline? I don't know if I really like the name too much, but I don't hate it either.
I like it. It's a cool name for an end of the year show. It's not using a property that's already old, so it gives them the chance to create something new.
I don't really know what Deadline kind of embodies. It kind of feels like it's the final semester at Chase University.
That's where I was going.
Maybe they could call it NXT Roadblock End of the Deadline, or Roadblock Dead of the End Line, or something like that instead.
Yeah, I mean, I like the idea of using these older pay-per-view names and kind of like repurposing them, like they've done with, with War Games, and they've done with
Halloween Havoc,
Great American Bash, and so on and so forth. Yeah, Halloween Havoc, of course. But none of them really speaks to me as being like an end of the year thing. I've seen people pitch maybe Armageddon because it's like, oh, it's the end and it's the end of the year. To me, that doesn't really translate all that well. So nothing's like Vengeance Day, for instance, where you're going, oh, okay, you gave that a little tweak, and Valentine's Day, Vengeance Day, cool. Deadline, yeah. I mean, there's better, there's worse. I still think Breaking Point is a good one. I'm the only person in the world that's championing bringing that back. but that is one of the few other ones that I would actually, I wouldn't want them to be like, we're going to bring back a Slamboree, and that's going to be the end of the year thing, because that doesn't make any sense. But it's a thing. And, you know, I already mentioned, I hate that they're going to do both. I would like it much better if it was December 10th and December 11th, where I get a little bit of a break. But
why don't people like Sunday anymore?
It's like, because you have to then watch it and then you getting ready for work the next day.
Yeah.
For people that are living in the UK, that is a really shitty thing to do. So
there's that.
I would say that, well, two things. First of all, that is the most annoying aspect of this, is the fact that they are now like cross populating with Ring of Honor, and so that's just going to hurt both shows in the long run. And realistically, it's probably going to hurt NXT more than it hurts Ring of Honor, because I just think that there's just more people that will be interested in seeing the Ring of Honor show. I mean, it's been promoted on Dynamite every single week leading up to it, so it's just going to have more of an impact, I think. And secondly, I just want to ask Rob something. Do you still believe that they put NXT on the same night as AEW just as a coincidence, or they weren't trying to compete and trying to take them out of business now?
I think that both shows were announced in horrible fashion. And I think I would imagine that they found out they were going to run the Ring of Honor show. I don't think that they pulled it together in 10 seconds, but I would imagine that they found out before we did, and they probably wanted to run this opposition, but I don't like the way that either of these shows were announced. More so ROH.
And when it comes to, you know, the dedicated fans following one or the other, the AEW people that like that the most are probably going to lean more towards watching the ROH show. And the NXT people that are, you know, I still know people that are, they just don't even really know that AEW exists, funny enough. And if I mention anything about it, they're like, oh yeah, I don't really watch the AEW and like that kind of thing. So those people are going to watch the NXT show, but you got to assume at the very least that the ROH show has at least one major positive going for it with Chris Jericho. And the NXT one, if the headlining act is going to be Braun Breaker or Dragunov, or, you know, like the main group of people that we're seeing here with Halloween Havoc, I mean, is Mandy Rose really going to end up drawing more than Samoa Joe? I don't think so. So I think the ROH thing doesn't have as wide of a reach, but it's going to have, its dedicated fans are going to show up for it. The NXT one, they have the potential to get more, but I don't think that they're going to. And I think by the end of the day on December 10th, I'm going to be so freaking burned out that I'm going to go, you know what? I kind of regret in October, because a couple days ago, this is what I was thinking. I was going, man, it's kind of weird that there's no event in December. I wish that they would put like something on there, maybe an NXT show or something. And then I get my wish, and it ends up being on the same day. And I'm like, balls. But it is what it is. I mean, you know, we're getting rid of day one, and we're going to fill it in with Deadline, I guess. Another trademark thing to talk about, though, is Lyra Valkyria. And I'm assuming that I'm pronouncing that correctly. It might be like Lyra Valkyria or something. But funny enough, when we were getting ready to get started here, we were all talking and just, you know, hey, like what do we got for the hot take topics and stuff? We have 3 different ideas of who this is going to apply to. Callum said, I mean, it's pretty obvious it's going to be Sarah Logan, which Rob and I were like, I didn't think about that. Now, it makes a lot of sense. You know, she is going to be coming back with this whole Viking Raiders group, and they tend to want to rename people and, you know, do the kind of, hey, you used to use that name elsewhere and whatever. But Sarah Logan is still a WWE owned name, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it wouldn't stop them from, they did the LA Knight thing and then they did the Max Dupree thing, so it's not like there isn't a precedent for it anyway, but still.
Yeah, and it's not like Sarah Logan has any real kind of stock behind it. It's not like, oh my god, we changed her name, no one's going to know. But everyone was so looking forward to Sarah Logan coming back, and so we need to keep that name going. She's going to be part of a Viking faction now.
Mm-hmm.
So she can't be called Sarah Logan and be attached to Eric and Ivar. She needs a different name. I'm not necessarily suggesting this is 100% that, but it still feels like as good a name as any.
Yeah, it makes sense. You know,
it's very Norse.
I mean, Valkyrie, it's definitely a Viking type thing, so that's not like it's completely unrelated. Like she's, you know, the carpenter or something.
Yeah, the only thing that's given me a bit of cause for doubt is the fact that she'll have two names, and Eric and Ivar will still just have one.
Yeah, you would think maybe she'd be Lyra.
Yeah.
Or just Valkyria.
Mm.
Now, Rob, you were thinking that it was somebody else. Who are you thinking?
Yeah, I'm thinking it's Valerie Laruda. Because just if you say the names, kind of Valerie Laruda, Lyra Valkyria, like it all kind of sounds like they're just taking the names and kind of doing the Daniel Bryan bit where you kind of put them back to front. And she did just say she got her new name recently prior to them trademarking this. And I was just thinking, oh, this must be what she was talking about.
Which that makes sense too. I could definitely see that potentially being the case. And that didn't come to my mind whatsoever either. Because I was thinking, now I'll say the one that I was thinking afterward. A bunch of people online are going, well, this is just Taya Valkyrie, which, I mean, I understand why they think so.
This is the Wish version of Taya Valkyrie.
It's very, very, very close to a ridiculous level, but I don't think that it's her. I was thinking that this was Aoife Valkyrie.
You know what?
Because she has not been confirmed in any fashion to be released from WWE. She's one of the few that is kind of hovering around that question mark range where like Aaliyah James and Noam Dar and I'm trying to remember who else. Isla Dawn, Aoife Valkyrie. There's like 2 or 3 others that I'm blanking on. Are just sort of not there, but they haven't said anything. Aura Mensa is an example of somebody who they popped up in NXT now. They've got a brand new name and everything like that. So I'm thinking, yeah, I mean, that might be the way that they go about doing that. And she already has Valkyrie in her name and Aoife and Lyra. Maybe there's something there or whatever. I'm an ignorant fucking American, so I didn't even know how to pronounce Aoife originally. And maybe Lyra is supposed to be some kind of connection to it, but that's where I was thinking, was that this is the return of Aoife Valkyrie and that she's going to be in NXT. All 3 make perfect sense.
Yeah, I'm like rather surprised at how well thought out these are.
So if it ends up being, they renamed Aaliyah or something, it's going to be kind of confusing. But if it is Sarah Logan, I'm down for this kind of name. I do think Valkyria would probably be better than Lyra Valkyria or Lyra Valkyria or whatever. If it's Valerie Laruda, I think that'd be my least favorite of the 3, because I think that they could do something else with her, and why go with that name necessarily? And if it's Aoife Valkyrie, I wasn't the biggest fan of that name to begin with anyway, but at least that keeps the Valkyrie thing going. Interesting how this is going to play out, though. Well, let's transition to another thing. Let's talk about... This is something we don't know too much about, but it's been mentioned, so I figured, let's talk about it for this. Supposedly, there had been work done on a Stone Cold Steve Austin cartoon series that Peacock is kind of just sort of waiting on and not necessarily giving the green light to. I don't know if I would be a big fan of this because it kind of depends on a lot of different factors. If it's, of course, written well, which you can't tell until you start actually seeing the product, how the animation style is going and what their game plan is. Because if this is just like an offshoot of Camp WWE, I didn't like Camp WWE. But if it's something completely different and it's, more like a old school Simpsons type thing, like season 1 through 10, then of course I'm down for that. If it's more of like an anime, then I'm not into it because I'm not an anime fan. So in theory, what do you guys think about a cartoon about Stone Cold?
In theory, I think cartoons in general are fun, and I enjoy them very much, as we've talked about often. But I wish it was with a more modern superstar. I understand why you would choose Stone Cold Steve Austin.
You're going to have to make me break out the not caring bell again.
Yes. You wouldn't watch a Stone Cold cartoon?
No, you wouldn't.
You wouldn't check it out?
I've got other things to waste my time doing. I don't need to waste my time on something else. It's just, I'm not I don't have a super amount of interest for any like offshoot WWE thing. I've got barely any interest in the actual WWE product to start with. So any other offshoot thing is really just going to be adding a lot of weight into the completely careless, frivolous waste of my like short existence on this planet. Like watching a animated Stone Cold Steve Austin just go like say all the things that he did 25 years ago.
That's where I have a problem with it.
Yeah, I just don't know what's it going to be. Is he like going to be Dennis the Menace? Stone Cold? Like
I'm kind of assuming, based off of absolutely nothing, just me imagining what somebody would pitch, that it would be more akin to like an Archer type thing, where it's like revolves around a main character who's abrasive and hey, what does Stone Cold get up to in this week, kind of.
But, I'm just like imagining again, I don't know how deep they go into this, but I'm just imagining someone in the Peacock or NBC studio just saying like, how about Stone Cold but a cartoon version? And say, okay, what else? And he goes, yes.
Yeah. Well, I guess not, because they're holding off on it. So maybe they ended up just going, maybe.
Yeah. Just I don't see I mean, I'm sure some people will enjoy it, but I don't know what the major appeal would be of a show like that. It appeals to a very niche audience, and it's wrestling fans are already a niche audience. So it's a niche within a niche. But then again, I imagine there's quite a lot of crossover between wrestling fans and cartoon watchers. But I don't necessarily think that there's a need for it, or what they can do to make it stand out and be different from, without just repeating basically just doing all of the Stone Cold stuff that he did in the past, just in a cartoon format.
I kind of feel like that's the bad version of this is what we probably would get, where they would look at the biggest things that happened in his career and they would just go, how do we translate that into some sort of a reference where you have like, how like in Family Guy, Peter, I don't know if it still is, I haven't watched Family Guy in God knows how many seasons, but there was that long running gag where he would fight the chicken. Yep. So it's like maybe he perpetually fights people in like grocery stores, and then it's like the grocery store thing with Booker T, and then at some point he ends up like doing the milk truck thing, or the milk truck, the beer truck thing. Milk
I
truck
hope
would have been
whoever pitched it with as much enthusiasm as you had right there.
With the it's that thing. Yeah, I mean, they probably would go about doing that, but I think this would be the type of thing that I would like to see a pilot for, just to see if it does work. It probably wouldn't. And there are other people that I would think would lend themselves a little bit better to a cartoon, and in different fashions too. Like they could have done a more serious like Undertaker story if they wanted to do some kind of a TV show thing or something. They could have done back in the day before everything got crazy. Probably could have done an Ultimate Warrior action show in the the 80s or something. But it's interesting that at least it got pitched. I'd like to hear what their ideas were. Who knows? Maybe it's garbage. It's not going to save Peacock. I'll tell you that. No way that's going to happen. So it might happen. It might not. I'm assuming at this point the project's probably dead. And if we hear anything more about it, then of course we'll let you guys know. But in the meantime, if you have any suggestions of like, I'd really like to see this as an idea, I'd be curious. So drop your thoughts in the comments below. Like, what would you pitch for like an episode of a Stone Cold cartoon? Because keep in mind, it's a cartoon. It's not, a biopic or something like that. But same kind of thing. If you have any ideas of like other people you think could make a good TV show or a good cartoon or something, I want to know about that too. So chat it up, drop a comment. Let's talk about something somewhat related to this, but a little bit of an offshoot. I want to rant for a minute about The Rock's new movie, Black Adam. Oh. So for the context of the people that are maybe potentially brand new to this, not only is Smark out moment under a mango tree, but there's also another one, Fanboys Anonymous. If you go to fanboysanonymous.com, you'll see it's predominantly superhero based, because even though I watch plenty of different types of movies and everything, it's not really as interesting to talk about. Like, I'm not going to do a full-blown review point podcast about Amsterdam that I saw recently, which was actually pretty good. I recommend checking that out. It's not the best movie in the world, but it's, you know, it's thumbs up. But, you know, you get into like the Marvel stuff, the DC stuff, all those things are much better to talk about for that. And I went into this Black Adam movie thinking, afterward, I'll do a review point. I'll talk about all the positives, all the negatives. I'll talk about the idea that this movie was in production for like 15 years. And it's crazy to think that that's the case, but it is. And about a quarter of the way through the movie, I thought to myself, I don't know if I really want to talk that much about it because this is really bad. So maybe I'll just write up an article. That'll be a little bit easier. It'll be less time dedicated to it. I'll just do my making the grade type review. And then about halfway through the movie, I thought, oh my God, I don't even want to do that, because if I got to like rethink about all these different parts of the movie and try to break down the visual effects and all this stuff or whatever. This movie is trash. It's really bad. And that's coming from both, you know, the pro wrestling side of things, the fan side of things of like the superhero genre and all that. I typically like to say, go ahead and check a movie out no matter what. If you're interested, then, you know, you got to make your own decisions and all that. Don't listen to Rotten Tomatoes outright. But Rotten Tomatoes was dead on. I understand why most people didn't like this movie. I'm not going to spoil anything for those who do want to see it, but I will say, at least just on a fundamental level, every single performance in this movie, including The Rock's, is bad. And the only saving grace to it is if you want to like shut your brain off and you want to watch basically another rehash of the movie 300 with like those slow motion effects of the fight sequences and all, which wasn't something that I was really all that much into. So I think the action's bad. I think that the story is completely wooden, even more than the acting. The characters are crap. There's a little kid that's like one of the main characters, and the entire movie I'm like, I hope that they kill this kid because I can't stand him at all. And it's not even like the annoying little kid trope. It's mostly like, this kid is not a good actor for these lines that are not written well either. The Rock doesn't even, somebody had asked, is he at least The Rock in this? Sometimes there's kind of no cohesion of, you know, this character that's acting completely different, and then sometimes he throws out a little jab of like some kind of charisma that The Rock would bring to it. So it's like it's a half-baked movie. They didn't want to do certain things, they wanted to do other things, and I fully do not recommend seeing it in theaters. If you want to watch it, wait until it comes out on streaming, so that way you can at least pause, you can take your time to like take a break, and if you want to not watch it and everything. I thought maybe we would do like a fan tracks for it, and I do not want to watch it a second time. So for anybody who's interested in that, and you are like, man, you know, this is a pro wrestling and superhero crossover, just wait for the next season of Peacemaker because it's so much better. Anyway, that's a little bit of your fanboy stuff. If you want more Fanboys Anonymous content, go to fanboysanonymous.com.
So just to confirm, Pierce Brosnan was worse in this movie than he was in Die Another Day.
Very much so. Die Another Day is a better movie, this one.
Yeah, because like in this movie, he didn't say mojito.
Yeah. Well, spoilers. No, he actually is kind of the best part.
Well, that's good.
And it's like he's just sort of going, "Hey, exposition," and telling everybody, you're kind of a bad guy, but you don't need to be," and whatever. It's mind numbing, and to the point that like the theater that I was watching it with, one person that was sitting like a couple seats to my right was the only person that was reacting to anything. You have your moments where you're supposed to clap, you have your moments where you're supposed to be laughing, and this one guy would just go like every once in a while and like just laugh, just like a little like that kind of thing. Nobody reacted until the last 3 seconds of the post-credit scene. So I'm not going to say what's going on there, but to sum it up, I guess the best is to read this one person, Riley, on Letterboxd. Their review is that they gave it a 0.5 star, which is the lowest that you can give it. Kind of like having your cerebellum ruptured minus the satisfaction of at least being dead at the end.
When you told me how bad it was, I was shocked because, yeah, people were saying it's kind of mid, but like that happens, especially with DC movies. But you were just really just not having it.
Because if it was just kind of meh, then it is what it is. There's plenty of movies that are in this genre, at least, that are kind of just like, yeah, that's okay. But it's bad like Morbius and kind of bad like The Eternals. I don't know. The Eternals is better. Even though how much I hate that movie, where at least if it could be a functional movie where you're like, all right, well, I see where they're going, but it's kind of a bad decision here. And, like, did you guys see the old Fantastic Four movies with Jessica Alba?
Yeah.
Like, those aren't good.
No, they're terrible.
But they're still better than this was.
Is it better than Fantastic?
Yeah, but that's not a high bar.
Well, yeah, no, that's if you said it was worse than that, then that's like over the barrel.
I mean, as bad as that is, it's not that bad. But that movie is, that's like they hacked that to pieces. But I will say this, I'll spoil this a little bit. The end of Fantastic, where it's like, oh, what do we call ourselves? Oh, I got an idea, and then it pops up with the name. They do that here. It ends with like, the name Teth Adam, that's a little outdated. What should we call you? And then you zoom into The Rock. Adam. Yeah. It's like, James. But yeah, it's bad. It's real bad. And if you want to donate to the Pick Your Poison tier and request us to watch something, please don't do this. Please. There's so many better ones. Batman and Robin. It's more fun to rewatch than this would be. So, yeah, sometimes we like to have a little bit of crossover there because it is The Rock, and suddenly, it makes sense why they wouldn't want to do a crossover thing with this. Because I'm always saying, like, why doesn't WWE do more things like that? Why wasn't there like a Peacemaker tie-in when they ended up having that season come out where John Cena does something with WWE? And now I'm like, yeah, okay. But that's one side of the hot tags. Let's move over to some AEW stuff here. Let's talk about Chris Jericho signing a contract extension with AEW and loop this in a little bit of some of the other things. Ace Steel fired, and CM Punk's contract is more speculative at this point to be bought out and to just move on and have a no compete clause, which blocks him essentially from WWE, but I don't think he's really going to be going there. So this is very much heading in that direction of what we had seen a few weeks ago, where it was like, all right, Jericho's taking over a bigger role in AEW, and then you got Steel and Punk taking their exit from AEW. How do you guys feel?
I don't want Punk to leave.
No, we'll definitely get to that. Jericho re-signing is fantastic news. He's been... Again, there are some people that are very like anti-Jericho, and I can understand it considering some of his political inclinations. Let's put it that way. But he's been a beacon of light for AEW this entire year and beyond. Like he's the biggest star that they have in terms of just like and the understanding the links from the Attitude Era, the time when the time when pro wrestling was as big as ever. So he's a carryover from that, but he is having great matches on a consistent basis. He's going to be taking on more position of like power behind the scenes, maybe like producing and helping with creative. So that's good because he has a wealth of experience and knowledge on that front. And him sticking around is good. Realistically, I would say that he's probably, hopefully, negotiating more money because at the end of the day, the wrestling business makes a lot of money, and the people that should get the most of it are the wrestlers. So hopefully, he has done that. But I would say that the door to WWE probably not slammed shut, but definitely closed more significantly as soon as Vince left, because I don't think there's a great deal of love lost between Triple H and Stephanie and Chris Jericho, at least based on what a lot of speculation is out there. Maybe that's completely fabricated, but I know that obviously Jericho had a strong relationship with Vince McMahon in terms of like a good working relationship with him. So maybe the change of the guard made it more appealing to stick around with AEW and build more of a legacy there. But that is very good news at the very least.
I think the reality is, if I was Jericho, even if Vince was there, I wouldn't go back to WWE. Jericho looks more like a top guy and a legend in the last 4 years than he ever did in WWE, and that's the whole reason he left in the first place.
Plus, you work less. You can work with different people, and you're working in like your own creative capacity instead of being, in the WWE machine.
I actually wanted to bring something up quickly as well because we love talking about trademarks. And I just, when I was just scouring around Fightful, heard that I saw that there's a Chris Jericho's failed to trademark the term Chris Jericho's blood boat.
Huh.
Like the
which
love
I
boat?
assume is some sort of enhancement on the Jericho cruise.
Yeah, probably.
Maybe it's like a show he wants to put on the thing, like Blood Boat, like a crossover with GCW, which I think is unlikely actually, considering that AEW doesn't seemingly want to work with GCW anymore. But yeah, that's an interesting term. It's like, what could that potentially be? Maybe some horror movie filmed on the boat. But moving on to
it's a tugboat reference.
moving on to Ace Steel, that was inevitable. Like there's no reason to keep him around when he's been such a catalyst in the whole brawl out scenario, and he offers nothing to the company without CM Punk there. So him being released is just part of the course. I'm surprised it's taken this long for that to happen. I assume it's a lot of the legal ramifications that are hanging around this. But yeah, that's an inevitability. The CM Punk one is, again, it's all just reports right now, and things can change in the meantime. Nothing's been confirmed yet. He's definitely not 100% out of AEW yet, but all signs seem to be pointing towards him them AEW arranging a buyout of his contract, and the sticking point appears to be the non-compete clause. So that leads to two things. First of all, as Rob has rightly pointed out, it's a bitterly disappointing outcome for this. It's not like it's a unforeseeable outcome, because fundamentally he started a brawl with three of the company's executive producers behind the scenes. So I think that is going to obviously have ramifications, and if they don't feel like they can hash things out, or things have fallen to the point of being like irreparably damaged between them, all communications are broken down, then the smartest thing for AEW to do is just cut their losses and move on from that. But the more interesting aspect to me, at the very least, is the non-compete clause, because if that's the thing that is holding up negotiations and the thing which is preventing them from just buying out his contract and then moving him on, I wonder, there's no other reason why he would be so concerned about how long his non-compete is unless he was going to go to WWE.
Which is like, what is the likelihood of that?
Well, I'd say, yeah, but that's the point. Is like, either the story is bullshit, and frankly, I'm not one of the many people, seemingly growing number of people on Twitter, if you're on Twitter long enough, that thinks that Dave Meltzer is full of shit. I think he does his research, and I think he knows what's going on. But that just leads me to think of, like, if he goes back to WWE, like, how crazy is that? Like, how just the whole mindset, like how this last year has gone, all the things that he said, all the things that he believed in, all the things that he was pushing out there about being back in pro wrestling after leaving it for so long. Just like, what he's going to do the first night that he's back, just go into the ring and says like a couple of months ago, I left professional wrestling and now I'm here. Now I'm here. I rejoined tonight. I rejoined sports entertainment, and then like, I think I saw someone on Twitter putting things like he says that, and then Roman Reigns runs up, Superman punches him, and dollar bills fly out of CM Punk shorts, and then that's just basically the end of CM. That's CM Punk marked for WWE forever. But I just can't see if that report is true, or it's proving to be true, and that is the thing that is holding up these negotiations. There's no like other scenario. He's not going to Impact. He's not like. I think it's doubtful he's going to go to New Japan. So the only option is WWE.
Well, New Japan is an option because he has expressed interest in New Japan in the past.
And you could get that match with Tanahashi.
But New Japan can't pay him the money that AEW was paying him. They just can't, because it's fiscally irresponsible, especially considering the fact that he just survived 1 year in AEW, got injured for half of it, and then caused the ruckus that he caused on the way out. It's like no company would pay CM Punk the same amount of money that he was making in AEW in just a wild speculative attempt to just try and get some immediate buzz.
Yeah,
maybe Impact, but that's like
you mentioned Impact before.
Yeah, even Impact, I don't think that they'd be able to afford it. And to a certain extent, I could see maybe that Punk, if he's got a chip on his shoulder, might want to go somewhere just to be like, hey, fuck you, I went there, haha. But if the AEW run is any proof of anything, it's not going to last. So at the end of the day, why bother with the no compete? Like, you don't lose anything when your company gains something that doesn't take away from you. If CM Punk were to go to WWE, for instance, that's not going to stop people from watching AEW that like the AEW product. And if you assume that that's the case, and this is what I never understood with WWE, when it was like, we don't want to let somebody like Mustafa Ali go because what if somebody else picks him up? If you think that they're worthwhile, use them. If you don't think that they're worth using, let them go, because you're not losing anything.
I agree with that to an extent, but it's a completely different animal when it's CM Punk, because CM Punk is useful, and CM Punk, if all this stuff hadn't have happened, would be pushed as a main event guy in AEW.
He'd still be the world champion.
Yeah, would still be world champion right now, and he'd be building towards a full gear match with MJF to defend the title, and yeah, he'd be where Moxley is right now. But that's not going to happen because of all of the shit that's gone down in the last 3 or 4 months. And that is the disappointing aspect. It's disappointing and it's upsetting because, like, I know your mileage may vary, but I thought CM Punk did some of his best work in AEW.
Yes.
He was fantastic on the mic. I think some of his matches were brilliant. The whole MJF feud was just one of the best feuds of the last several years, I think. Just the way that it was all put together. And I think that again, we don't know what was all happening behind the scenes, but he looked like he was happy. He looked like he felt that he was back and he was doing good stuff, and they made him world champion. And then ever since Double or Nothing, it just all went to hell. And just to see that end, and whether that is, it just ends with him walking out and then just never coming back to wrestling again, or in the, I don't say worst case scenario, but like even worse, he ends up going back to WWE and basically turns his back on all the stuff that's happened in the past year, and all the stuff that he said, and all the stuff that he's stuck firmly to for the 7 years prior to, like never going back, never forgiving him, forgetting. Then it's just it'll feel quite painful.
For me, the reality is, I agree with Cal 100%. He did some of his best work in AEW. It was a run that made us all or at least the people that were real fans of his, made us feel like, oh man, this is what we were missing. This is what we wish we could have gotten. And now that he's having this run, it just felt good, and if he goes to WWE, which I just see as an impossibility, because even he knows that destroys all of his whole shtick at this point.
Mm-hmm.
Not saying that his hatred of WWE is a shtick, but like if he were to go back, it makes everything he did feel so much more flat,
And I think it flies in the face of the fans that would be supporting him that would care to move on and follow what he's doing anyway, because it seems like the majority of, at least online and everything too, the most of the buzz around CM Punk is the rebellious, screw the way that the system was before kind of mentality. And if Punk goes back, those people will be like, oh, you sell out.
Yeah.
So the only way to do that is to have him come back and be a heel, but then he has to personally have that as his point of view. And I don't think that he's really able to do that. I can't picture Punk being like, yeah, you know what? I'll play the character of guy who says I was wrong and I am better off if I sell my soul and do all that kind of thing. Like,
well, I could see him coming back and play the character as the guy who just comes back. And you're right. Take the sellout approach of, I came back because they offered me a shit ton of money. And I'm just going to do I'm going to do what I'm told and all that stuff because they're paying me, twice, exaggerate. They pay me 4 times the amount that pissant company that I previously worked for paid me. Right, and now I'm just going to take my paycheck. I'm in the twilight of my career. I'm just going to take the paycheck, going to turn up, do the bare minimum, and you guys are all going to tune in because you can't wait to see what CM Punk does next. And that's your character. And also, I wouldn't be happy about it, but if he wants to stay in professional wrestling and WWE is an avenue that's available to him, then that's the character you play. You turn into the inevitable backlash that's going to hit him. You see all the guys on Twitter that were so heated about, his return didn't mean anything, just start becoming like the ultimate CM Punk fans again in this whole era of awful tribalism, social media tribalism.
And just fake behavior, because really it is,
But it's just the overall feeling towards all this news that's coming out is just disappointment. But fundamentally, I think it's the right move to get CM Punk out of the company. If they can't find common ground and no bridges can be formed, and CM Punk is going to remain belligerent about the whole thing, if that's the case, then you just need to cut your losses and move on.
It just sucks because I think something that's being lost, and not by us, but I've seen a lot of takes online that are just like, oh, and he wasn't as passionate about working with the young guys. And I just think that's absolute bullshit. Like, he did work with the young guys. Did he have a long program with MJF? Absolutely. But you can't get mad that he didn't put over MJF in the end. Sometimes the good guy needs to win the story. I just think the wild 180 on CM Punk from those that were supporting him just because he picked the fight with the Elite. It's not something I'm interested in seeing. I think CM Punk did more good for AEW than bad, even with the way things ended.
I definitely agree that this is the best course of action if that's where they want to go, and just be like, you know what, we're going to wash our hands of it. We got the biggest thing out of it that we could, which was the original pop. And do you really want the headaches? Plus, are you going to side with Punk over all the people that are associated with the Elite? It's a lot, So
yeah, you've got to back the people who were there from the beginning in these circumstances
that the company's named after. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. And then we'll just see how it goes from there, because at the end of the day, we don't know what the situation is with the Elite. I mean, it seems almost inevitable, that they will come back, but you don't know where their mindsets are as well. They might be just the whole situation might be the thing that's annoying them, rather than if CM Punk goes, it's not like that might immediately fix everything. So we'll just have to see how this continues to develop and see if we read a report next week that says Punk is released, and then we can start to process it and delve into it a bit more deeply about how successful it was, or what ramifications this has, or what the future holds for Punk.
Well, as far as talking about ringing the doorbell for the Forbidden Door, one thing that's not happening that I don't understand why people were thinking was even going to have a chance is that Karl Anderson is not defending the NEVER Openweight Championship on the same day as Crown Jewel. And for the people that were actually putting out, like, okay, if he goes to this airport and he takes this flight, then he can... What the hell? That wasn't going to happen, everyone. They're booked for an appearance on Crown Jewel. They're working for WWE right now. I don't know what the contract situation is with how he's able to have a New Japan Pro Wrestling Championship and get signed to another company. But if New Japan's playing kind of, well, whatever, we'll just put a title on somebody and we'll figure it out. This is kind of what ends up happening when it comes to that. WWE doesn't play around with that stuff. They wouldn't just go, yeah, go to that show instead and don't do our show. No. And that's one of those situations where I know people will end up going, why can't WWE just play along? I understand why WWE would put the kibosh on that.
Did you know that Hulk Hogan once worked 400 days a year because he used to travel back and forth from Japan to America? I think that's what they thought Karl Anderson was going to do. He's going to reverse the speed of time by traveling back and forth from Japan. I don't know why anybody thought this was going to happen. I think it sucks. Sucks for New Japan especially, but this is clearly what they're doing. And I'm sure that it's not as tense as it seems, but who knows?
Yeah, I don't think realistically, when people saw the dates and where the shows are taking place, that they could have thought that Karl Anderson is going to end up defending that title in New Japan. The reason why people would think that is just because that was the match that was booked first, and it's been booked for a while. His title defense against
Hikuleo.
Hikuleo.
Yeah, Hikuleo. Yeah, sorry. And but then the Crown Jewel thing gets announced, and obviously they're going to take precedence because WWE is probably has them under contract, so it's probably paying them more. And this is the issue that you have when you decide to take two guys that clearly put money above everything else. And again, there's nothing wrong with that. You make your money where you can. It's a finite career, and so you do what you can. But signing those two onto like a handshake deal and expecting them to fulfill all of their obligations is just, you're just asking for trouble. That's not how business operates, and it's a very naive move by New Japan to do that, and hopefully they'll learn from it going forward. But it just means that their NEVER Openweight champion is pretty much held hostage, and their title is held hostage until they decide, essentially, he's got to defend it at some point, or otherwise, if they keep trying to book him for stuff and WWE keep saying, oh no, we've got this house show that we need Karl Anderson to appear on or something like that, it's just eventually they're just going to have to take the title off of him. And it's
he's got a Skype meeting.
Yeah, there's a bit of an issue when he's got the physical belt, but it just seems such a massive departure from them appearing on Raw and New Japan World, retweeting it, and everything seems to be heading towards that. And now he's basically saying, yeah, I'm just working WWE shows, and I don't really care about going to Japan and defending this title. I'll do it eventually, but it'll be on our time, not yours. It just maybe it is just a whole big angle, but it does seem like at least from face value, that the wheels of this transition have just completely fallen off, and it probably wasn't the smartest idea putting one of your big titles on a guy that wasn't properly signed to your company.
I still kind of think of it as why doesn't New Japan have possession of the title? Maybe there's a fundamental way that this works better when everybody carries around those belts, but I always think if it's going to be defended on your show, you're going to run the production for it anyway. You might as well keep the belts. Why do you have to have this person carry it? They could lose it. We've seen plenty of times somebody's like, man, I put the championship in my car and then it got stolen, or like with Jericho, it's on the side of the road or something.
I think that there's no way that this isn't. I saw the video they released. It's maybe I'm naive, and in some cases I have been, but like, there's no way that they're just like, fuck Japan right now.
No, I don't believe that either, but I also believe that this wasn't originally in the schedule. It's not like, again, maybe things are different in Japan, but I wouldn't like false advertise. I don't think that's ever a good thing to do for any organization, any promotion. You shouldn't say that you're going to do this title match and then, plans change in a way which is, it's out of their control, but it's something that they could have controlled if they'd actually, signed them up to a more permanent contract. But
if I were in their shoes, I probably would be like, look, you need to mail that championship to us immediately. And we're just going to strip you of the title. We're going to have Hikuleo against whoever. And it's going to be the crown of new champion.
Said, they just went through the whole thing of being like, yeah, the NEVER Openweight champions on Raw. So I don't know. I don't think they're feeling like, oh, well, listen, we're going to strip you of the title.
We'll just see how it progresses. This is just one instance of them already booking something and WWE taking over. If it starts to become a trend, then they do have a problem.
Yeah. So that is the rundown of stuff that I have outside of the TV stuff. Let's go.
Wait, did we officially talk about day one, though?
What, that they canceled it? I think we did before.
Day one is, well, we were talking about rumors, but day one was officially canceled, citing the fact that like Peacock didn't want them to go up against the last Sunday Night Football game. So while it's still on the WWE schedule for now, and it's still like on the website for the State Farm Arena, the belief right now is that there won't be a day one in 2023. And I think that that's okay. Day one was kind
totally
of
fine with them not having that. Yeah. Not only is it a pain in the ass to do the pay-per-view stuff on that first day of the year, just, wait 3 more weeks and do the Royal Rumble. That's it.
I mean, it's fine if you can like do those extensive builds, and that seems to be a Triple H theme. That was a theme in NXT. It's like you had the extended builds, like 8-week builds between takeovers. So I think they are making a move towards the just have a few standard pay-per-view events each year, and then you just pepper in some special events like the Saudi shows and a few other international shows in between to fill it up a little bit more. But yeah, that seems to be the direction they're taking. The only thing that interests me about the day one being cancelled is that was a Nick Khan like passion project. So it's interesting that that's the one that they've taken off the calendar.
But if it really is because of issues with scheduling for Peacock, maybe it's easy to go, all right, well, we don't want to piss off our business partner.
Yeah.
That's probably the way it went.
Football's going to take priority. Well, let's be honest. Football's way more popular than WWE. So if they want to make sure that they are making the most amount of money and they want to prevent that from getting in the way of football, well, it's WWE day one, really. Another rumor that's been going around this, I didn't put too much stock into it. People are putting out these different, like, this is the rumored pay-per-view schedule for next year, and there's nothing that seems to point in the direction of, like, proof toward any of that. So, I don't know about the idea of King of the Ring and Queen's Crown being a pay-per-view next year. I don't know about the idea of this, like, okay, this is the full breakdown. I highly doubt it, but I do think that there's probably going to be a little bit of credibility to that one report that I had seen of that Triple H doesn't really like the idea of these gimmick pay-per-views like Hell in a Cell. I could imagine that potentially going away. Maybe they do kind of free up a little bit more space, or maybe they replace it with some other things that are just like, look, we're going to do fully loaded instead, and we don't have to do Hell in a Cell at that point. We've talked about that ad nauseum, so you guys know our opinions about that, but we don't know too much of the actual pay-per-view schedule for next year. And soon enough, they're going to make a decision about day one because they have to. They can't just, it's mid-December and go, hey, in 2 weeks, we got a pay-per-view. We have to fill it up. It's not going to work. So
they have, but I see what you're saying.
If you want to make sure that you're not making the same mistakes as the previous regime, then you got to learn from it. So I think that soon enough, we'll just see that taken off of the website and it'll just be quietly not a thing anymore. We'll see. Let's talk about some TV stuff though. We got SmackDown from last week, had a few interesting things that happened on there. One of them being that they started off with Karrion Kross and Drew McIntyre having a brawl and it was a car crash. And hey, look at that. Karrion Kross is replaced in that Intercontinental Championship #1 contenders match. So, yeah, those are one of those things where certain situations I'm not a fan of, certain things I like, certain times I'm kind of meh. By and large, I don't really like it when they announce people for a match and then they go, never mind, and switch it up. But clearly they had this other idea in mind. And as we went throughout the night, that was one of the bigger stories, which was that Rey Mysterio decided to pop up on SmackDown and say that he was quitting, and then now he's joining the SmackDown roster, and now he's #1 contender to Gunther. Did not anticipate at the beginning of the week that we would be having Rey Mysterio in a feud with Gunther on SmackDown.
It's a great idea. It's a good way to keep Rey and Dominic separate because I know for a fact that Rey, who they probably listen to, doesn't want to do a match with Dominic outside of Mania. And I think it's a good way to keep them separate. And yeah, the brand split has meant next to nothing, but this is a good way. Making moves like what they did is a good way to start making the brand split mean something. If you say, no, Rey is on the other brand and that's that. And by the way, there was a trade for him.
The counterbalancing that, they announced on Monday Night Raw, trading in response to the Rey Mysterio thing, Baron Corbin, who's Baron Corbin again, and is working with JBL, is now on Monday Night Raw.
The only thing I don't like about this is that he's still wearing Happy Corbin fedoras. But other than that, I like the name. The gear is a return to normal gear, and it's a good start for Corbin.
What do you think about either of these, Callum?
I like the story about Mysterio coming over to SmackDown, and the whole story was that he was going to quit, and Triple H convinced him to come over to SmackDown. He replaces Karrion Kross in the main event, gets to earn an Intercontinental title match. I am absolutely fascinated by the idea of Gunther versus Rey Mysterio. I just think that is it's a complete mismatch, but it's something that should be a lot of fun to watch. I just want to see. Honestly, I just want to see Gunther chop him so hard that his mask just falls off. It just withers away.
That'd be awesome.
And the idea of them trading Baron Corbin over, again, it would make so much more sense and be so much more impactful if people from Raw and SmackDown were just appearing on each other's shows on a completely weekly basis.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
But the brand split doesn't mean anything. So what's the point of trading people? Mysterio could have just gone over to SmackDown and said, yeah, I'm just not going to go back to Raw now. There's nothing stopping Dominic just appearing on SmackDown.
Right.
So that's the part of it I don't like, is the fact that the brand split is fundamentally meaningless. So if they had maintained some barriers, then that would be a cool story and that would be a good direction to take. But it just, it doesn't mean anything in the grand scheme of things. Baron Corbin with JBL. No, still don't care. It doesn't mean anything to me. Like JBL, I don't like JBL. I've made that abundantly clear. I don't think that he's a very good person beyond being a decent promo. And him in his parachute pants didn't impress me too much.
Yeah, what was going on with those pants?
And Corbin, when you said that gear is a return to normal wrestling gear, it looks terrible. It's a return to wrestling gear, but it's awful wrestling gear.
It is not my favorite gear, and I'm hoping it's one of the things that, along with the theme song, they just get rid of in time.
Because fundamentally, Corbin has never wrestled. As far as I'm aware, he doesn't wrestle. He's never wrestled shirtless.
He did at the start of his career.
Right. Oh yeah, like that initial run with Baron Corbin, but it's been several years since then, which makes me feel like he doesn't like exposing his chest. So whatever reason it is, it's just that his gear doesn't do that. So I can understand putting some sort of like upper body outfit on. It's a weird thing. It looks like the way that I heard it described. It's Baron Corbin is essentially both the Basham brothers combined together wearing Orlando Jordan's outfit.
Oh no!
And so he's basically just JBL's cabinet.
He is the cabinet, yeah. Like,
but yeah, I'll give it a chance, but I need to see more than just him, beating the guy that everyone beats when they get a new gimmick or there's a new character on the show. Dolph Ziggler. It's like, yeah, I saw him wrestle, what was it, a 10, 15-minute match, and he was as boring and stale as he always is.
There's certain people that I think work pretty well against Baron Cabinet, as we might as well call him.
Oh no!
Like, I want to see like a Johnny Gargano.
Boring Cabinet, am I right?
I'd like to see Gargano against him and all, and I like the idea of freshening things up a little bit. So we'll see about the partnership with JBL. I'm not entirely sure it makes a ton of sense because Corbin can talk, so it's not like he needs a mouthpiece, and I don't really see the connection point between the two right now, but maybe.
They're big guys who are bullies.
If they lean a little bit more into that, I think I'll like it better. Right now, he's the next wrestling god. I'm not quite feeling. So question marks until we see more. I like the Rey Mysterio thing about the idea of I'm trying to avoid having a match with Dominic. Definitely want to see Gunther just toss Rey Mysterio around. I think that's cool. What other stuff we got on SmackDown? They're teasing Omos and Braun Strowman. Probably going to get that at Crown Jewel. Talk about that.
A good Saudi match
around there. Yeah, makes sense. I don't know if it's going to be good, but we'll talk about that when it comes down to it. We got the LA Knight turn, where it's LA Knight beating Mansoor, and immediately afterward being like, hey, fuck you, I'm actually still a heel. So,
the best
definitely
thing to
course
come out of
correction.
That was a digital sketch where Mansoor said, I don't understand why you were mad at the Maximum Male Models for modeling. And I thought that was great. They are trying so hard to do whatever they can with the little bit of TV time that they will probably ever get in their careers. And I appreciate it.
Gato beats Hit Row. They kind of do some other stuff here and there, whatever. Not too much crazy stuff. With Morgan, I had a brawl with Sonya Deville. I don't really know what that was all about.
That was stupid.
I wasn't a fan. And we got the Bray Wyatt return, which is interesting. So he had said on here, thanks for your support, and that people had came up to him and said that his career meant so much to them and got them out of a dark place and everything. He said he lost 2 people. And for some reason, I can't think of who the other person is. One of them's Luke Harper, of course. Who's the second one?
It could be anybody. I didn't think too hard about it because I was like, oh, well, it doesn't necessarily have to be a wrestler. Like, it could have been Sarah Lee, but it doesn't necessarily have to be a wrestler.
Yeah, it could be. I mean, I don't know. I just thought maybe there was like an obvious answer that I was completely ignoring. But he cuts this promo, whatever, and then we get the Uncle Howdy pop up again, and it's basically a whole lot of nothing. And I'm immediately starting to go, oh no. I don't really see anything different other than the first couple seconds where he was like, I'm going to actually be me and whatever. And I was really digging that because I was like, oh, he's going to be a person again. And
well, he's never been a person outside of Husky.
What's the difference between Uncle Howdy and The Fiend?
Well, we don't know. It's been like 5 seconds. We know at the very least that this character doesn't seem to, completely get along with Bray Wyatt, the man. But this was also strategically done so that he could properly, say, hey, thank you for being there for me when I was released. So we don't know if this is going to continue, where he's going to be more of a man, or if he needed to do that so he could get out a promo saying, hey, thank you for being there for me.
Thank you for being a friend.
I think it was fundamentally just giving him the guy, like Wyndham Rotunda, giving him the opportunity to just thank the fans and be himself for a little while before the inevitable move to a character, a spooky, creepy character that's going to be the actual person that Bray Wyatt is moving forward.
Yeah, that's the way I took it as well.
Yeah, so I don't think what he said in the promo is anything. It's just him getting out his pure raw emotions about being back in the company and what that means to him. And then it's just it will hold no bearing on where he goes moving forward. Now he's a guy in a mask. Again, a different mask, but a mask nonetheless.
I'm still hoping that he's not really in that mask during matches.
But, I mean, we'll see what direction they take this new mask character. Like, if it'll be better than the last one.
I have my reservations.
Yeah, I completely would understand that because we've already seen him in a mask, and it was like it started off promising, and then it just got worse and worse and worse.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of following the same trajectory at this point, but we'll see.
I still blame Tony for all of that. I just want you to know, like, still your fault.
I mean, there's no indication about a Wyatt 6 thing either, so there hasn't been any indication of people moving to that.
Dude, my God, the amount of, like, Wyatt 6. Let's all talk about the Wyatt 6. I think Karrion Kross did an interview about, I would join the Wyatt 6. Like, what the fuck? This thing doesn't exist. It's not real. Like, why do people keep doing this?
I specifically wrote up an article on EWN about why it makes no sense for this thing that I'm hearing where people are like, Grayson Waller is Mercy the Buzzard. And it's like, no, he's Grayson Waller. If they were to have these people come out and be like, well, Alexa Bliss is now Sister Abigail. She's Abby the Witch, and she's going to do that from now on. You completely get rid of their characters, and you defeat the purpose of so much of that. Like, Grayson Waller isn't going to want to just be Mercy the Buzzard going forward, and you can't picture him to wrestle in that fucking mask and everything, too. Picture Rambling Rabbit, that outfit. That doesn't work. So there's plenty of other arguments that I have on that. Go check that article about on EWN, but I don't anticipate that that's going to be a thing the same way that a lot of other people are, and I think we're kind of just going to get this Uncle Howdy thing as basically the new Fiend, and I'm a little bit worried that that's what they're doing. So I don't know. We'll figure out if there's something more on SmackDown tonight. Right now, they've only announced like 2 things or so from SmackDown tonight. It's I think Sheamus against Solo Sikoa, and like Logan Paul's gonna do another, hey, remember that match is coming up. Maybe they have something else. Oh, they have got Liv Morgan against Sonya Deville. They've got the women's tag title match. So yeah, nothing standing out to me. Go back to Monday Night Raw. On this past week, we got a lot of things that ultimately don't really matter too much. The OCB Alpha Academy and such. Rollins retained the United States title. We got some follow-up of here and there with like Dominic Mysterio and such. One thing that I really didn't like was that they had built up this whole thing that we're going to get The Miz and Damian Priest, Dexter Lumis. And their decision was to have The Miz try to get out of it, and then just attack Dexter Lumis, and, well, we're not doing that match. I don't know why they're dragging this out.
But we got something. At least they've acknowledged something to where it's like, there's a history here. They have thought of a backstory that they will get to. So that's good.
The only part about it that I liked was Gargano being like, oh my God, there's Dexter Lumis, just to get The Miz to prove that he wasn't injured. That I liked, but everything else I wasn't a fan of.
I mean, you say The Miz attacked Dexter Lumis, he lightly tapped a chair on his back multiple times. like, obviously, what can you expect from the King of Soft Style to just produce that kind of beating? I mean, there's something about protecting the person you're working with, but goddamn, just put a bit of elbow into it, you know. It's like, but yeah, I don't care about this. I don't care that whether they do have developed a backstory or they do have something that's somewhat intriguing about this entire story now. At this point, it's run on so long that it would need to be something absolutely spectacular for me to take any element of interest now, and I doubt that that's something they're going to come up with. Because, and I'll keep saying it until people start to get on board with it, these shows are so boring. They're so dull. Nothing happens on Raw anymore. Like,
I can't disagree.
I wish something terrible happened. I wish something that, not terrible in terms of like, you know, what we're going to talk about at the end for Dynamite, not that kind of terrible, but just a really bad segment or something just really unfunny or uncool or something like that. Just something that we can talk about. It's just, nothing is interesting on these shows.
Yeah, because something like the Mustafa Ali thing is just something that falls flat. Mustafa Ali comes out and he's just like, hey, I want a match again. And they're like, all right, well.
Well, yeah, it's just going to lead to a one-off match between Seth Rollins and Mustafa Ali over the United States title, and Seth Rollins is going to win, and then we move on.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, and those things are fine, but again, this show is missing some kind of hook. Not hook, but you know,
send hook.
I hate that we always have to cut Tony off because we know it's coming.
But they need something that's like the interesting thing, like the one big story that everyone's talking about. And at the moment, that's Bray Wyatt, but that's on SmackDown. So Raw really doesn't have anything because they don't have Roman. The most interesting thing on Raw is Bobby Lashley and Brock Lesnar, and that's because Brock Lesnar's great, and everything he does is the most interesting thing that happens on any show, pretty much. And
that was a great segment.
Yeah, I love that segment. Like, that was because the thing that I loved about it so much is that they let Bobby Lashley beat the shit out of Brock Lesnar.
Absolutely.
You can't just have Brock beating people up all the time and expecting people to take their challenges seriously. And so this feels like, yeah, these two are on the same level. Let's see what happens in the match. Now that it is just like a total babyface Bobby Lashley against a heel
whatever
Brock Lesnar.
He wants to be Brock Lesnar.
Yeah, but Brock's pretty much Brock, whether he's heel or babyface. And it'll just be, two guys beating the shit out of each other for a while. And I'm looking forward to that match. I wish it wasn't happening in a blood money country. But that's fine.
That's my take on it as well. Like, damn, I wish they weren't building this for a Saudi show.
Yeah, and I mean, other elements that are supposed to be a big deal still fall flat to me too. Like, I wasn't the biggest fan of the Elias stuff.
Well, hold on.
We got that return.
Didn't like Matt giving him a hit on the bong?
I thought that the little bong thing was funny, but they have Matt Riddle interrupt Elias, which I was thinking, is Elias just going to be a heel and he's just going to attack Matt Riddle and that's going to be the thing. But then they have now we have 3 people revolving around Seth Rollins for this United States title. And none of them feels like it's actually going in a direction that I care about. Because if they go with like Mustafa Ali and whatever, he's just going to lose. If they go with Elias, I mean, he's just going to lose anyway too. But if he turns heel, Elias, I mean, okay, then it's just what we've seen before too. And I don't know, like you said, like what's the hook? Like what's the thing that's supposed to make me go, huh? Instead of just, okay, he's back to Elias again. Well, that Ezekiel thing sure sucked. Moving on.
I mean, they were clear to tell you that though.
You're not zeked up about it.
Yeah. No, like Zeke. Oh yeah, Zeke's gone. His career's over now. Sorry. Like, which I'm glad about. Don't get me wrong, but it's still just like, damn, how long are they gonna just go with? Yeah, we're just getting rid of everything from the last 3 months.
You have to sometimes. It's scorched earth. Why not? We talked a lot of the NXT stuff. There's not too much that we didn't already mention when it comes to Halloween Havoc, but a few things here and there, I mean, Shinsuke Nakamura popped up and they kind of did the whole pick your poison thing, and not in the good way. The good way is to pick your poison on the Patreon, but they did Core Jade against Raquel. They did the guest spot of the Good Brothers teaming up with Cameron Grimes and such. Quincy Elliott beat Zion Quinn. He is now the co-host for the show. Anything else you guys feel like talking about? There's really nothing that stands out for me.
No, I'm happy Rhea Ripley's wrestling again.
Yeah, that's good.
5 months.
No.
Yeah.
Really?
She hasn't wrestled since the Fatal 4 where she won the number 1 contendership.
That seems like that's so long ago.
Yep.
My God. I didn't think about that.
That's all I really cared about.
Yeah, nothing on this show again stood out. Again, it's just pretty dull and pretty flat. Like, I thought that considering the like week-long build-up they did for the Pick Your Poison stuff, it was like, obviously Rhea Ripley winning was to be expected. The whole Raquel Gonzalez and Cora Jade just going like a minute, and then Raquel for some reason starts beating her up with a bat or kendo stick. Just yeah, that just fell flat as well. It seemed like a lot of build-up for nothing to be delivered. And again, it makes both the people that are going to be actually wrestling the match at Halloween Havoc look like losers. Yeah, the whole show was just your standard boring affair. It seems like they put all their eggs into this is going to feel like a big deal because we've got main roster people on this show. And then they just didn't use them in any way that was particularly interesting.
How'd you like the Kevin Owens airing of grievances? Or the KO show where they aired their grievances?
I didn't. JD McDonough, Ilya Dragunov, Braun Breaker, none of them are good promo people. So
I think this wouldn't have flown under the radar without the Hangman thing we're going to talk about in a little bit. But Kevin Owens calling JD McDonough JD Mc don't Google me. I got a kick out of that because I think that's funny. Because they don't even touch that kind of stuff with Riddle.
I know thoughts on NXT before we move to Dynamite.
No.
Nope.
Alrighty, so then that brings us around to AEW again here, and this episode was primarily a talking point when it comes to one major problem at the end, which was when we go through, there's some stuff here and there, the AEW Trios titles on the line, we got the Hikaru Shida against Tony Storm match and such, but the major talking point was Jon Moxley against Hangman Adam Page for the AEW World Championship, which ends with a stiff clothesline where Hangman Page does this flip and he lands in a way that a lot of people thought it was a neck injury immediately. I immediately jumped to a concussion, but I, of course, am not a medical professional in any means, so I was just like, well, I'll wait until they figure some things out. But the match stops. Moxley, of course, cuts a little promo afterwards saying, hey, I hope that he's okay and everything, but then they try to salvage it as much as they can. And now at this point, we know it has been at least confirmed to a certain extent that it's a concussion, not a neck injury, which is good. The level of how bad that concussion is and the repercussions and when he can return and if and all that stuff, I don't think we know pretty much anything about that, but for a little bit there, it was pretty scary. Enough that MJF was even tweeting out prayers for Hangman.
Yeah, and then tweeted out, oh, now that I know he's okay, I feel bad for tweeting like a poor. MJF is great. Yeah, very scary. And I do want to point out that, just because all we know right now is a concussion doesn't mean that more issues won't show up in the near future. But for now, glad that he seems to be doing okay. Very scary moment at Dynamite, and just glad he's doing all right.
Yeah, it was a very distressing scene. It's nothing that you ever want to see a match end that way or anything like that to happen. It seems to me that the bump or the flip bump itself isn't the thing that caused the concussion. I think it's just when I just watched it back and saw that Moxley's arm was probably a bit high and it caught Hangman at the side of the head rather than like in the upper chest. And so that probably just knocked him loopy. I'd say they work a strong style. And it seems to always be the moves that anyone just does kind of in their sleep and does it just routinely are the ones that seem to fuck you up. Like we talked about like a couple of weeks ago, it's like Tony D'Angelo injured his leg in a drop toe hold.
Yeah.
Like it's always those moves, and like this match started with Hangman doing a giant moonsault off of the stage onto Moxley. It's like, and that's fine. They did a dead eye on the ring apron, no problem whatsoever. But one clothesline and Hangman's just out of it. But the referee stopped it, rightly so. Got the doctor in quickly, managed to give the best possible care immediately. So they did their jobs properly, got Hangman out of there, ended the match, rightly so. And by all accounts, Hangman seems to be doing well, seems to be pretty cogent about the whole thing. Obviously, just however long he needs to just make sure that he's fully recovered before getting back in there. But yeah, it seems like in all of the circumstances, it was probably one of the better case scenarios. So at least we can take heart in that.
Definitely.
At least we hope. Like, I'm still concerned because Cole has a concussion and, he's been out of action for a while, and who knows if he will be back in action. I hope it's not a case like that with Hangman,
It's always scarier to me when a match ends rather than when they finish a match and then it turns out that there ended up being a thing afterward. Because once it's just an abrupt thing, then you know that it's like, all right, they can't even. We've seen people with like a torn pec that finish a match, or we've seen, Cody Rhodes' case with a torn pec and he starts a match, which is still crazy to me. But, people have done things where they've broken their nose and they continue with the match, or Cesaro continues after fucking up his teeth and all that. For a match to abruptly end when you aren't sure what is going on, that's always very nerve-wracking. And credit to them to be able to hold everything together and obviously to treat him immediately and take care of that, because that's the most important thing. But on a positive note, how fucking good was that MJF promo?
Yeah, everything MJF did was fantastic.
It's a masterful piece of work from both, obviously MJF definitely, but Regal as well. Like, that whole segment was one of the best segments of Dynamite all year.
Easily.
Just the way that it bleeds into reality, because you could just tell how real it was, and the messages, and the fact that he has gone through WWE and he was picked up for extra work and done all that stuff, and he probably was in contact with William Regal a lot over this, and to get that response and how negative that made him feel. And like, the best thing about it is that it's not, neither of them were a heel or babyface in this promo. They were just two people airing out their grievances. It's like Regal sees it differently to MJF because Regal had to go through a much harder, like, it was a different time for him when he was getting in the business as a teenager, and so he had to go through a much tougher and a difficult path to become a professional wrestler. Whereas MJF, in his mind, has had it easy, but then people's perspectives change, different environments change, and that could be devastating for MJF, and clearly it was based on his reaction. Getting that level of rejection, and he fueled that into becoming the star that he is now, the talker that he is now. And Regal seems impressed and knows that he could be this person, but then he talks about how he's cuts corners too much, and even if you're going to be a villain that doesn't do it the right way, but takes all the liberties that you possibly want to get the win that you want, but don't have other people do the job for you. One of the best lines was saying that he use a diamond ring to knock people out. I just use brass knucks because I like hitting people with them.
Yes.
But yeah, it was just an absolutely brilliant segment from start to finish. And I'll let Rob gush over it a little bit as well after this. But the best thing that I feel about, and also when it gets to the end as well, also they did which mentioned after the Hangman injury, they did a really good job of improvising the ending of Dynamite to just cover for that. But MJF coming out and seeming like he's going to cash in the chip on a weakened Moxley, and then just giving the chip to William Regal and saying he's going to do it the right way and he's going to win the title, earn the title at Full Gear when Moxley's at 110%. The best thing about how all of this has gone is that it's completely open-ended about what happens at Full Gear. I mean, I think we all are in agreement that MJF needs to win.
Mm-hmm.
But how he wins is completely up in the air, and that's what's exciting about it.
And he very well might not win.
Yeah.
They could play the whole idea that he finally does something by the books, and the fact that he doesn't cheat costs him the chance to win the title.
Yeah, and MJF proved that he's one of the best promos in the industry. But what I liked about this was that the audience was fully behind him, and they were even booing Regal when he started to talk. And then Regal, as Calvin pointed out, as just a person who had a different circumstance, said, "Yeah, I did that to you because, listen, I wanted to kill myself. I wanted to quit when I had, grown men abusing me at the age of 16 just to try to break into this business, and I didn't quit. So if I needed to do that for you through an email, because that's all I'm allowed to do nowadays, that's what I had to do." So good. You had everybody was hanging on the edge of their seats, just waiting to hear what the next guy was going to say. MJF continues to prove that his real story is still one of the best, and you can do the story of wrestling was my dream while also being a great character. And I think that's important in this day and age. And honestly, we talked about Punk and how this would have been the CM Punk spot. I'm glad we're getting this with Regal because this is a story that needs to be told from MJF. This is part of his journey. And every day, it just seems like the 2024 thing gets even more intriguing because it's so clear that's where he wants to go. That is part of his journey. That's what he needs to be complete. But will he be able to, climb the mountain in AEW and say, no, I want to rule this kingdom now instead of, needing to follow that dream. So it's all playing off into this 2024 stuff, which is great. Regal, I imagine he's got some of these stories with other people in AEW because, again, being in charge of the developmental system for so long, how can you not have these stories? This is the kind of stuff I like in wrestling. Mm-hmm. And that's why no matter how much the show has declined in quality, I think AEW is still a better wrestling show because when it comes down to this shit feels more natural. It feels like a real conflict. And I just eat this shit up.
To me, it's always a disappointment when you can get a segment like this and it's like one of the best segments of the year. And then I go, oh, you know what? That beats out everything from all the other parts of all the other episodes that we got this week. Like, of course, I was not a fan of the, hey, Riho's back and they're doing another Saraya brawl and all that. I didn't enjoy any parts of that whatsoever. And we talked about how like boring some aspects of Raw was. And I'm assuming that SmackDown tonight is probably going to be 2 hours mostly of, I don't really need to pay too much attention to it, And then you get like the MJF promo and it's like, yeah, good things are good. Great things are great. And,
I will fundamentally say that I think that, and again, mileage may vary, but I would say that this episode of Dynamite as a whole, even though we have the unforeseen ending and the unfortunateness of the Hangman injury, was one of the best Dynamites all year. Top to bottom, like the trios match start off with, it's just a perfect way to start because it's just fast paced and everything was great. I thought the Storm and Shida match was great. I think it's probably Storm's best match since she's joined AEW, and they put together a really good show. I thought Dalton Castle Jericho was funny as hell in places, but also just a really good match. And Jake Hager with his hat is just funny.
Yes.
Like that's like the new meme. That's the new bit of the bubbly for the Jericho Appreciation Society. It's basically that and Daddy Magic's nipples getting hard, like the big things that they're leaning to right now. But yeah, and also there's the little segment of Wheeler Yuta getting like pissy at Bryan Danielson for not seeing Daniel Garcia turning on him. So there's fractures within the Blackpool Combat Club, and Jade Cargill threatening to hold Rampage completely hostage if she doesn't get a title belt back. Like, there was so much good on this show. Like it's unfortunately it ended the way that it did, but yeah, I just thought everything pretty much nailed it for me on this one.
What was interesting about this show? It was very promo heavy. There was a huge block in there after.
Yeah, 4 matches on the entire 2 hours.
They went with 4 big matches and gave them time, and then the rest of it was just filled with either little backstage segments or, again, that long MJF and William Regal promo, which deserved all the time that it got. So I think it was just a great way to put it together. Realistically, like you get good matches on WWE all the time. So the real thing that separates AEW from WWE, and why I agree with Robin saying that this is like this is the better professional wrestling promotion, is the promos. The promos in AEW just almost always outrank WWE, because almost every week, especially when MJF is talking, you usually come away saying like, "Wow, there was one really great promo on this show."
Yeah, and that is the important thing, because, like, let's be real. I'm sure there's a lot of AEW, I don't know if you'd call them purists or whatever, that'll be like, yeah, but too many promos is too WWE-like, but promos are a necessary part of the show. And if you can do it like this, to where everything feels meaningful, then why wouldn't you have a bunch of promos on the show to where now you're like, oh, wow, is Wheeler Yuta going to fight Bryan Danielson? Is William Regal going to potentially join MJF? Is this all a swerve? You're at least thinking, as opposed to just being like, okay, and I know where this thing with Logan Paul and Roman Reigns is going.
I know one thing that's a swerve.
Swerve Strickland?
Yes. I agree. And we are at a position now where we're done the hot tags. And, if you disagree, leave a comment below. If you do agree, tell us what you're thinking. Drop your thoughts and whatever it is we want to talk about with the hot tags. If you did see Black Adam, tell us what you thought about that, for instance, too. And we, of course, are going to be popping back up again tomorrow night after NXT Halloween Havoc. So not only will there be the posts up on EWN, and there'll be the Smark at Moment live coverage and everything, and we'll have the Facebook group live chat for anybody that wants to take part in that. We'll also have our pay-per-view point post show, so stay tuned for what it's probably going to be about like 5 minutes after the pay-per-view ends. We'll run that down. We'll talk about all the positives and negatives that comes with Halloween Havoc, and then we'll roll into next week when we get into what we don't really have 100% for sure locked down as a main event. Right now, we're kind of between two different things. One of them being a women's mock draft in some fashion to celebrate the 4-year anniversary of Evolution. Another one could be, and I'm leaning a little bit more towards this one, an idea that Callum had of a mock draft randomizer of the champions that have been in WWE from 2000 onward. I think that's kind of a more interesting concept, and maybe we could do the Evolution one if we're talking about this next year. Especially because, who knows, maybe they do a 5-year anniversary of Evolution. Maybe we'll tie that into better the other way. But we might do that. We might do something else. Kind of depends. Question marks all over the place with that. But I do know that next week I'm going to also start the Champs Giving tournament. And that is going to be, which of these retired WWE championships would you rather bring back? So we've got more than are going to be on the actual bracket. I looked at it last night. I kind of lumped a couple in together because it's like, all right, well, we don't need to have a separate entity for Cruiserweight Championship and NXT Cruiserweight Championship. And some of them are just, the NXT UK tag team titles. Okay, well, are you going to go with that, or are you going to go with the World Tag Team titles? Probably not even worth it to talk about that, or the WCW Tag Team titles. So I, to my best of my ability, made the bracket up last night, and over the course of the next few days, I'm going to put up that first round, and then we'll talk about that on the hot tags as well for next week, and run down, what do you think should win on this part, and what do you think should do on that part, and you guys will be able to vote and stuff, and kind of keep that going. But in the meantime, if you want to check out what we've done in the past, there are thousands of videos that are up on here. There's all the content on smarkatmoment.com. There's everything over on fanboysanonymous.com. So go to amangotree.com, see all those links that are up on there, and start clicking around and following things and liking things and sharing things and all the good stuff that's you normally do there, including following me at Tony Mango all over the place. Rob, fill them in on what's going on with you.
You can follow me everywhere at Dude Felice, including Twitter, Instagram, Twitch, all that good stuff. I'll be streaming Gotham Knights relatively shortly after we finish recording this podcast. So, just if you want to see some Gotham Knights gameplay, if you want to see, I've been playing a lot of Rumbleverse. just check me out on Twitch and check out all the great stuff on smarkoutmoment.com, including the Triple Threat, which is what I contribute to. And now I'm turning you over to Callum.
Yep, so while you're over on the Smark Out Moment website, you should be checking out the Power Rankings as well. That's my week-to-week contribution. Every single Saturday, where I position the WWE superstars in any order I so choose. I don't have as much control over the Fantasy League in terms of who's picking up points and what position they're going, but you can find that there also on Smark Out Moment or over on WWEFantasyLeague.com. And you can just see who's picking up points every single week, and where we stand in our little mini competition as we head towards Crown Jewel, which will be the next pay-per-view, where things can change a little bit, where somebody can double up another one of their wrestlers' points or take points away from one of the competitors. So keep tracking all of that stuff every single week. You can find me on Twitter at Wigmeister14, and that's it from me.
That'll do us in for this episode, number 568. We want to thank you all for listening. Hope you enjoyed it. Let us know by hitting that like button, leaving a comment, and by tuning in the next time around. But for now, this has been another Smark Out moment, and we are being counted out.